Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's career strategy session. We have a very dynamic guest. Her name is Chasity Cooper, and she is a digital comms strategist. Today, she's going to share with us her path to navigate the career jungle. Welcome, Chasity.
Thank you so much for having me, Jackie. Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday. So for those of you who are joining us live, I want to encourage you to ask questions throughout this 30-minute career strategy session. You can pop your questions into the Q&A box here on Google. You can also tweet your question to us using the hashtag NTCJ. For everyone who watches the replay, Chasity is going to give us some contact info on her at the end of the session, so you can tweet your questions later. So we'll give everyone maybe another minute or so to hop on, and then we'll get this started. I'm so excited.
Me too. Awesome.
So while we're waiting for folks to come in, Chasity, just tell us a little bit about yourself, because you are a millennial that is just everywhere.
I know it seems that way, but so yeah, I've actually been based in Washington, D.C. for about 4.5 years now. Currently, I am a communications manager for the Climate Action Campaign in DC. So we work with a lot of different environmental organizations, providing them with resources and tools in order to connect with their constituencies more efficiently. Just started that about a month ago, so it's been really cool to kind of like see how everything works in terms of the environmental world and how it connects with policy and all those cool things in being in the nation's capital as well. But yeah, as you said, like I've just been, I'm a self-proclaimed millennial on a mission that's been for the last few years, and I've been able to really connect with awesome, very, very awesome millennials across the country and even internationally, just to kind of get their stories and understand how they're intersecting their passions and purposes in life.
I absolutely love it. So give you a little backstory of how Chasity and I connected. We connected through Lavo League. So Chasity is the leader of the DC chapter of Lavo, and I was the past chapter leader for Lavo Atlanta. So that is the awesome way that we connected, another millennial organization. So, invite your friends to join us. I'm sending out a tweet right as we speak with the link so that anyone who wants to join can hop on, because I guarantee you, I talked to many people throughout the week who want to go into digital communications, and this is the best person for us to hear it to, because she is slaying in her field.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I also want to ask you something fun. You ran a marathon recently. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so the funny thing, I got started running in late March. So initially I was in my cousin's wedding in July, and I was like, oh, well, I need a, way to, slim down and get in shape for the wedding. And so two of my girlfriends are captains of the running club here in DC, District Running Collective. And so like, oh, come out and run. And the first run, when I tell you, was the hardest run of my life. I mean, I've had moments where it's just been hard to run, but that run definitely humbled me. And so yeah, so starting in March, I started running with the running club weekly, and then my first half marathon was in September. I did the Navy Air Force, and then 30 days later, flew up to Toronto and did the Scotiabank waterfront half marathon. So I'm hoping and praying that my first full marathon will be Chicago in October, but I'm actually headed to Miami next month to run another half. So it's addicting. When you start, you really just can't stop. But it's been a great way to meet people and to push myself to a new limit, athletically, physically, and mentally as well.
That is so cool. I have a friend who runs marathons, and she lives in Miami. So I'll reach out to her if she's running. I'll make sure I connect the two of you so that you can.
Please.
Neat. Yeah, so cool. Well, let's hop into it, y'all. I'm really excited for this career strategy session, as I mentioned, because Chasity, I see her work. She writes as well. She's going to tell us a little bit about that. But I am a huge fan of everything she does, and she does everything with excellence. And, that's one of my big things: eliminate excuses and emulate excellence. So Chastity, you kind of told us a little bit about you, what you do professionally. Tell me, what does navigating the career jungle mean to you?
That's a great question. I actually love the concept because as a millennial, a lot of times we feel once we graduate from school, we have to have everything figured out. So if I went to school for finance, I have to go work for Deloitte or KPMG or another big house finance company and work till I get to the top of the ladder. Where in this day and age, when you have social media tools like Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, you're really able to create your own career path a lot differently than, say, our parents and even Gen X before us did. So I think navigating the career jungle really means identifying your strengths, also your weaknesses, and being able to find opportunities that can, allow you to grow and become stronger as a young professional, but also personally. I think you're going to have opportunities that seem amazing at first. I know when I graduated from school, I did a series of internships where they were all public relations internships. So different agencies in the DC area. And so I think my final internship was with Edelman, which in school they were like, yeah, you want to work for one of the four big PR firms. So when I got to Edelman, I thought I had, reached the holy grail and I was just going to work till I, got a job. But essentially what happened is that I didn't like the agency life. It's a lot. Um, it's a lot of time, a lot of effort. People get burned out, especially young people get burned out really quickly. So I think that taught me to really just be flexible with the opportunities that come my way. So really, like I said, just navigating, understanding who you are, being able to um, accept opportunities that may not be ideal at the moment. Like if you want to, I guess, eventually be a VP of sales for Nike, you have to figure out, okay, if that's the goal, what are some smaller things I can take to build in order to get there? So really just being open to the process and the progress that you're going to make as a young professional.
Absolutely. I really connect with that definition of navigating the career jungle. So you mentioned being open to new opportunities, and that brings me to my next question. What did you want to be when you were a little girl?
Oh wow. So I think growing up in Texas, we were just talking about this. Growing up in Galveston, I loved going to school. I mean, I still loved going to school like until I graduated from college, but um I had a lot of amazing teachers in elementary school, in middle school and in high school. So really just that educational piece was just really surrounding me. Definitely wanted to be a teacher when I was a little girl, a teacher or a doctor. I know my sister and I would spend many a Saturday mornings waking up and playing school or playing doctor. So being really able to help people, that was really something I wanted to do as a little girl. So either being a teacher or a doctor.
So at what point did you realize that you weren't going to be a teacher or a doctor?
I think it was sophomore year in high school. I was introduced to the organization called DECA, which is Distributive Education Clubs of America. And I remember my mom just saying, you should go, like, go to the meeting, figure it out. And so I went and I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, I love business. I've always kind of had this, business savvy type ordeal to me, but I really didn't understand the fundamentals. So joining DECA really kind of honed in that business and communications, um, that idea that I could be in that world. So sophomore year of high school, I was like, okay, medical school is going to take a long time. Becoming a teacher is going to take a long time. But I mean, of course, becoming a business and communications professional is going to take a long time as well. But I found that like being able to publicly speak and come up with strategies for different organizations and stuff, that was really where my passion was.
Fun. So what was your first job?
Very first job. So I was going into the seventh grade. And so in my hometown of Evanston, there's a community center called Family Focus. And so you're able to, as a young person, connect with the community center, um, and not only did we get a stipend, but it was also like almost an enrichment program for the summer. So it was about 6 weeks long. We went to work every day, whether it was creating different programs for the community center, working with younger kids, being a part of different city celebrations throughout the summer. So we were really able to kind of understand how the community center really was a hub for a lot of people in the city. So that was like really my very first job. I'd say probably I was about 12 years old. And being able to get, like, the first time I got a paycheck just kind of blew my mind. I was like, okay, what am I going to do with this money? Do I cash it? Do I put it in a bank account? Um, but really being able to connect with my peers was also the cool thing. Just connecting with the community in general, and being able to be a part of something. At the end of the summer, there was a big kind of like block party celebration that we were all a part of. So to see our hard work up until that point, and then when we reached there, being able to celebrate and really bask in our achievements over the summer. So that was like a really cool first job. I know a lot of times people are like, "Oh, I worked at a coffee shop or an ice cream parlor," which I still wish I had those experiences. But I think that first job really laid the foundation for me to get involved with my community and really work with my peers more.
And that's so fascinating. My first job was working for my mom in her hair salon, but then
Mm.
I you had a really, really cool job. So that and that foundation that you've established is great. So we have a question here from Samantha, and she says, I'm looking at your Lavo profile. She said, I'm really interested to know what your philosophy on leadership is.
Oh, that's a great question, Samantha. So I think being a leader, it's something I often think about. A lot of times, like just growing up, I'm the oldest of three kids, so I was born kind of in the position. Well, yeah. So growing up with two younger siblings, I kind of already had this innate leader in me. So, being able to watch after them and make sure that they're okay. And so I'd say that was kind of like the initial foundation for my skills as a leader, being a big sister. But I think leadership, it takes understanding who you are and how you connect with people and how you're able to um, really work toward an end goal collectively. So I think being and Jackie, I know you can agree with me on this, working as a leader of local Lavo, you have so many young women that you're in charge of essentially. So, different programs that we put on, different events that we have, how are we able to connect with them on a level that when they walk away from the event or the activity, they're like, I feel inspired. I'm encouraged to, find a way for me to, either get more involved with Lavo or become a better young professional or, just find a way to um, be better personally. So I think essentially leadership for me is really just about authenticity and connectivity. So really finding a way to um, understand who you are, your values, your morals, and how not necessarily you can, push those onto other people, but find a common ground where you guys can connect and move forward to a common goal.
That is great. And we have another question here. So you all, I just want to remind you how you can send a question in. I have people sending these questions in to me on DM on Twitter, which is fine, but you can ask them openly too on using the Q&A here on Google Hangout, or you can send them through Twitter using the hashtag NTCJ, or like some of the folks are doing this morning, just DM them to me and I'll ask. So it says, this question comes from Bonnie. And Bonnie says, you seem like a woman who has mentors. Do you have any mentors and how did you connect with them?
That's a great question. I absolutely do have mentors and they're quite amazing. I'd say the very first mentor I had was in high school, I was a part of an organization called Top Teens for America. And so we were assigned mentors. That was like my first experience with having someone who would connect with me on a weekly basis, see how I'm doing, come out and support me for events. As I moved into college, I think I became a little bit more aware of who I wanted to kind of be a part of my growth process. So it really came in just building relationships with people. I know one of my mentors, two of them live in New York. One of them is in Chicago, and a couple of them here down in DC. But they really just came from like relationships that I've built. One of my college mentors, he was my. I laugh because like our relationship is it's just amazing and so very, very authentic. But he was actually my supervisor when I worked at Syracuse University in the student center, and so just being an employee of his, we would have conversations, and he was somebody I could actually come to and just be myself, like whether it was I was having a terrible day and I had to sit in the office and just cry, or I was really excited about something. He was there consistently. And even today, like we'll just kind of have conversations via G chat, text, Twitter, and we'll connect whenever I'm in New York. So really seeking out those people who you can build relationships with. And they can come, organically, or you can actually cold email people and be like, hey, I want you to be a mentor of mine. I think what I've done in the past is just identify people who I admire both professionally and personally. I follow them, whether it be on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And, I wrote a blog post actually last year, Myleik Teal, who's the founder of Curlbox. And just like, it was three reasons why she's my mentor in my head. And so having her respond to me and just be like, thank you so much for those awesome words. Like that's a way you can connect with somebody who may seem very distant, but they're actually very accessible. So I'd say like, make a short list of people who you admire and, send them an email, because the worst that, could happen is that they say, no, I'm not interested, which I doubt people would ever say. So yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. You are sharing a lot of your leadership qualities with us, and you briefly mentioned networking indirectly. So I want to have us take a step back and talk to us about networking and how you network.
That is a great question. So living in DC, that is in any city across the country, really, Atlanta, Chicago, New York, Miami, LA. That's always when you get there, you're like, okay, I have to network, I have to move around, I have to meet people. For me, when I moved here 5 years ago, I like to talk, as you guys probably can tell. So really just being able to strike up conversation with someone, not necessarily about what they do or what school they went to, although those are like the common questions here in DC and I'm sure in other cities as well. But like I said earlier, finding a common ground or something that you have in common with somebody. So like for Jack, you and I, we have Levo in common, excuse me. So like if I ever came to an event in Atlanta, like we walked up to each other. I'm like, oh, well, what are you involved in? You would tell me Levo. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm involved with Levo too. So really finding those really cool intersection points where you can connect with people. Like I said, a lot of times in DC, you'll go to a networking event. People will have a stack of business cards ready, like, hey, I work for so-and-so. Here's my card. I'm like, I didn't even ask for that. I just wanted to know, like, probably what you had for dinner last night, or what are you doing this weekend? Where do you like to brunch? Where do you like to go to happy hour? So, approaching networking, look at it as a conversation, a very relaxed conversation. If it ends with getting a business card, all the best. If not, you have a new friend and you guys could like get coffee or something like that. So really finding a way to start the conversation and keep the conversation going. That's how I look at networking.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I had a client who told me very early on in our relationship, she said, I'm networking all wrong because when I leave networking events, I end up having more friends. And I said, you're doing it all right.
Exactly.
She was like, I don't have enough business cards. I'm like, it's not about the business cards, it's the relationship. So I am 100% on board with your definition. You all have some amazing questions this morning for Saturday morning. I think this is phenomenal. So our next question comes from Caroline, and Caroline wants to know, do you have any advice for someone who wants to change their major in college? It seems like you knew what you wanted to do from the beginning, but I am a pre-med and I want to change to marketing.
Ooh, that's interesting. Well, Caroline, it depends on, hopefully you're like a freshman or sophomore, so you still have time to change. But it really would just be, it's good that you're aware of the fact that you want to make this change. I think identifying, you know, classes that you've taken already that can transfer to the marketing major, being very open with your academic advisor, and really talking to both the, I'm guessing, arts and science school and the business school at your campus. So just being very candid, like, hey guys, I started in pre-med, but I don't want to do that. And also understanding that it may take a little bit more time for you to finish that degree. So being open to that as well. Like if you're sophomore and you want to switch the path to go into the business school, it's, you still have enough time. So don't think that you don't have enough time to make the switch. But yeah, just being very vocal with your academic advisor, both of the schools on your campus, and then identifying ways in which you can um, find those classes or courses that can transfer for over to your business major.
I think that's great advice. And I'll just add one thing, Caroline. I think because you started in pre-med and you realized early on that you want to switch, that's great that you have that intuitiveness to know that hopefully very early on. We don't know what year you are in college, but when you go in to switch to a marketing degree, you have this medical background. So you're carving out this specialty area. So think of it as a gigantic plus because you have more knowledge than someone else. So kudos to you. Our next question is from Sherelle, and Sherelle says, how did you become the leader of so many organizations? I'm looking at some of the things about you online.
um, that's a great question. It really, I really just found organizations and causes I was passionate about. So, for example, Lavo, I've been a leader for going on 2 years, and I truly believe in the betterment of young professional women because I am a young professional woman. So, believing in that cause, I think that gave me the opportunity to seek out an opportunity to be local labor leader. For other organizations that I've been a part of, I've sat on two different boards here in DC, DC Web Women, which I mean, my background, I have a little bit of tech in my background, and I'm interested in technology and women being in technology. So that's another way. Let's see, First Book DC, I sat on that board for about a year. Like I said, I growing up reading was and still is fundamental. So being able to not only give back to the community, but also empower younger kids to read and get lost in different stories and just to kind of gain knowledge from doing that. But to go back to the question though, really just identifying those things that I'm very passionate about. Um, and finding ways to not only just walk in and be like, hey, I want to run this, but like, you know, how can I take those gradual steps to improve the organization? How is the organization going to, thrive even after I've left the organization? So really being strategic about the different things that I'm a part of and how what talents and gifts that I can bring to the organization as well.
Phenomenal. You mentioned reading. What's the last book that you read?
The last book, so I read The Cuckoo's Calling. J.K. Rowling wrote it under an alias. It took me a while because it's a thick book, but it's a mystery. So I absolutely adored it. Right now, I'm actually reading The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes. And
Yes.
it's so, when you think about it, like this woman had like she just really breaks down how she thinks and how so much of an introvert she really is and how she's just always been inside her mind, and this is how she's created How to Get Away with Murder and Scandal and Grey's Anatomy and Private Practice. But she's very honest and thorough with the book, so I would highly recommend reading that. And it's easy read. I'm like halfway through and I started on Monday.
Okay, that's good to know. I mentioned last night to a girl at the Lavo Atlanta holiday party that I wanted to read the book, and she's almost done. So she's going to loan me her book tomorrow. So I'll tweet you and let you
Yes,
know how
please.
much I.
We'll have an online book club. It's great.
Yes. So we have just a few minutes left. If you have questions, you all are doing great sending your questions in. Keep sending them to me. And if you're watching the replay and you want to ask a question later, like I mentioned at the beginning of the session, Chasity is going to share her contact information with us at the very end, and you'll be able to reach out to her. So I want to talk for a second about challenges, because we live in this social media age where we see the highlights of people's lives. We really don't get to see the hard work that goes behind that moment on screen. So talk to
Hmm.
us about a challenge that you experienced in your career. Take us exactly to that moment, and how did you overcome it?
That's a great question. And I would say, so the most recent challenge that I experienced, and a lot of times people don't want to talk about it, but I've become a lot more comfortable with it. So back in July, I actually lost my job. So um, coming to that realization that like I'm not going to have, a steady income every 2 weeks, and like what am I going to do? Like I kind of had to take a step back and be like, all right, let's reevaluate the situation. What went wrong, um, and where do I want to go next? I think not necessarily looking at, losing your job as a bad thing. Yes, it is a bad thing, but there are different ways in which you can come out of that. So I think for me, it was a lot of um, being open and very transparent with my family and my friends. Um, Identifying ways in which I can potentially make income as I'm looking for a job. So, whether that's writing, whether that was doing social media strategy for some different organizations. So, freelancing in a sense became a way for me to bring in some income. And then, like I said, talking to different mentors, different professionals in the area who could provide me with not only encouragement, but a pathway for me to figure out what I want to do next. So and just overall, like, doing your best to keep a positive spirit. I think a lot of times when people get fired, they're like, "Oh my gosh, like what am I gonna do? Like it's the end of the world," and it's not. Like it's a plot twist, if you will. So you're able to take this time, reevaluate yourself personally and professionally, and then find different opportunities for you to grow and become better at what you do. Because I mean, you might have lost your job for a number of reasons, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're a terrible person or a terrible professional. So really looking at the bright side of the situation.
Thank you for being so transparent and honest with that. And that's brings up a really important topic that I would like you to touch base on a little bit. You mentioned writing, and
Hmm.
I read a lot of your articles, which I think you're a brilliant writer.
Thank you.
I want to see more, but tell me, how did you get into writing, and what is your inspiration when you write?
Oh, that's a great question. So for me, I've always loved to write since I was a kid. I've had so many journals. Like I've kept journals like they were books. But really, as of late, writing for me is just it's storytelling. So whether I'm writing a personal blog post about overcoming a challenge like losing my job, or finding a different way to promote my work or share my work with other people, I really, a lot of times, I don't think about myself when I write. I think about, okay, how can this particular story or this particular topic help someone else, um, and really just coming from a very open and honest place when I write. So whether I have to write on deadline, I write for Slant News as well. Shout out to Slant News. So I write for them on deadlines sometimes, but other times if I'm like um, writing for my blog, a lot of times I sometimes get a little stressed because I'm like, oh, I didn't put up a blog post, but I have to not necessarily wait for the right moment, but figure out, okay, what else is everybody going through, and how can like I share resources or tactics or techniques for us to kind of get through this. So yeah, just really kind of like listening and, having conversations with my friends over brunch and figuring out, okay, what is the next best thing to write and how can people benefit from it?
So we're right at 10:30. I have one last question, if you'll allow me. I
Absolutely.
do want to respect your time. You were on a streak about writing about Black girl magic for months. Talk to me about Black girl magic.
So the way it happened, I I love the hashtag, and so I was like, "What is this what is Black Girl Magic?" So for me, it's very it's our essence of just being who we are. So whether that's being doctors or lawyers or entrepreneurs, moms, sisters, nieces, like we all Black women we're just magical because I think a lot of times in the media we're scrutinized and people come at us from a number of different angles. And so being able to have this thing where we could relate to Black girl magic, we all have this very beautiful thing within us that can just be shared with the world. So that's really what Black girl magic is. Like I said, I had started writing about it because Serena Williams was competing during the summer. And so I was like, she's just like the epitome of Black girl magic. But really our moms and aunts and grandmothers, like they have instilled in us like this beauty to be our authentic self. So I'm obsessed with it. I hope it just continues to grow and flourish and we are able to share with our future daughters and sons and grandchildren that it's cool to be yourself and really to embrace that.
Yes, yes, yes. Love it. So as we wrap up, tell us how we can connect with you and give us one parting piece of guidance.
Sure. So you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Chasity S Cooper, ChasityScooper. You can also send me an email at chastity@chastity.com, chastitycooper.com. So Chasity, the at symbol, Chastity Cooper, Chasity Cooper.com. So feel free to send me an email. I'm pretty responsive. I love meeting new people and sharing gems. But my one parting piece of guidance would be, especially with the new year right around the corner, I think just we all have to give ourselves the space in which to not only be authentic and to learn from other people, but really to be patient. A lot of times, like you said earlier, we see highlight reels on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, but there's a lot of work that goes into building something new or starting a new venture or even writing a blog post. So just really, I think as we move into 2016, I think a lot of people just have to give themselves the ability to be patient with the progress and the process, and celebrate your small victories. If you got like 3,000 people to your website in a week, that's something to celebrate. Like, and really be happy with the progress that you're making. And also just have fun with it. I think a lot of times people are like with entrepreneurship or even with blogging, like you have to be so rigid and so constrained to certain things. And it's just like, enjoy the process. Like you're meeting so many different people, you're connecting on so many different levels. So be patient, enjoy the process, and have fun.
Great advice. Chastity, thank you so much. You have re-inspired me this Saturday to get out and work. I put on Facebook either last night or early this morning. When I see everyone around me thriving, it motivates me to work harder. You have definitely motivated me this morning. Thank you for sharing your part of your career journey with us. And you all make sure you follow her on social. If you have any questions, definitely reach out to her. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, Jackie. You too.